The movie Dumb and Dumber is a cult classic, and it's probably one of my favorite comedies as well. But this movie was almost a complete and utter disaster, and luckily was saved in editing. And I know this because I've sat down and I've watched the uncut version that has all the deleted scenes included twice. And this is a very different movie that portrays two very different characters. In the theatrical cut of the film, the cut that most people are accustomed to, we see that Harry and Lloyd, who are played by Jim Carrey and Jeff Daniels, we see that even though these are two characters that aren't necessarily the most likable or maybe the most redeemable characters, we find ourselves rooting for them. So even when they're doing these bizarre and sometimes outright heartless actions, we can still kind of forgive them. And some examples of this would be like how they sell a headless bird to a blind kid so that they can have extra snack money. You know, it really paints a picture of two people who are starting out at a very low point. So as we go through the movie and we see them become a bit more redeemable even for their standards, it is a trajectory that we can get behind and try to support. And there's a lot more than just this one behavior in the movie. They have a lot of them, such as spending all of the money, or how when they accidentally kill the hitman, they just take off and don't wait for an ambulance. And then, you know, like the snowball fight scene where Harry essentially beats up Mary and then tries to fist fight her. And luckily she mistakes it for a joke because that could have been really bad. But in the deleted scenes, they go much further and they are much worse characters. And it's to a point, by the time I was about halfway, 3/4 of the way through the film, I absolutely despised them. And again, this is one of my favorite movies and I do really enjoy their characters overall. So it's just funny that with editing, they were able to take this film that was, in my opinion, a really bad comedy and turn it into something so incredible. So in this video, I'm gonna go over a few of these scenes that were deleted that really showcase how originally these characters were kind of creepy degenerates. And luckily, that was fixed. But later on in the video, we'll talk about how some of these remnants still remain in the film. So there's a deleted scene early on in the movie where Jim Carrey's character, Lloyd, tells Harry, Jeff Daniels' character, that he's in love with Mary to the stars and back, and that, I'm just gonna show you the scene real quick.
She is the love of my life, the blood in my veins. We belong together till the mountains fall into the sea, till the heavens collide, or until I get sick of her and need to move on.
He basically acknowledges that at some point he's not gonna care about Mary anymore, and that she's just kind of his passing fixation at the moment, which also kind of brings into question if he does this more than once. So it's really great that they cut this scene out, because had they not cut this scene out, how are we supposed to go along with this very odd like love story if we know partway through that he's going to not care in the future? It's like watching Pokemon and knowing that Ash doesn't want to be the very best. He wants to be like a mediocre Pokemaster. Mediocre Pokemaster. Pokamediocre. Pokamediocre? I don't know. Stupid. Some of these scenes that I'm going to talk about are outright deleted scenes, and some of these scenes are actually, they've cut out chunks of scenes that are still in the movie. This next scene is an example of that, and it's in the hot tub where normally they had the conversation about Harry's ex-girlfriend, then you find out that Lloyd had been with her as well, and that plays out later in the movie. But there's a deleted part of this scene where we see Lloyd listening to the people in the next room have some intimate relations, and then he turns to Harry and he says this.
There's only one thing that can make this moment any better.
What's that?
If you had a nice set of knockers.
That's two things, Lloyd.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing you're not stacked, Harry, or I'd be banging you right now. I'd show you what a real man can do. Split you like an old piece of firewood. You'd probably like it too, you big homo. Shut up. Don't tell me to shut up, woman.
And as you can see, Harry is very uncomfortable in this scene. Lloyd is very predatory in it, just in every way, and just overall pretty creepy. And I think it really changes the dynamic of their friendship and Lloyd's character altogether. It really shows that all the things he does throughout it, like he really is just this creep that we maybe thought he was. And what he's talking about doesn't sound particularly consensual. The scenario he lays out with him and Harry, the whole thing's just kind of frightening. And then he just kind of gaslights him and is homophobic, and the whole thing is just very odd, and I'm so glad they cut it out of the movie. And sorry, I have my notes up on my phone, but check it out. I got some stickers. They're available on my website. I sell a bunch of stickers, so check them out. So in the scene in the bathroom where, you know, the guy from the diner catches up with Lloyd and goes to get revenge on him, there's actually a cutout chunk of that scene. So what they had cut out of this scene is that Jim Carrey's character, Lloyd, so the guy catches up with him, tells him that he is going to R-word him and unalive him. But Jim Carrey's character then asks if he can do it in the opposite order. At this point, this is where the theatrical cut takes over, and Carey bursts in and knocks the guy down, knocking him unconscious. But what you don't see in the theatrical cut is that the guy's not wearing pants anymore. It makes you kind of wonder if Jim Carrey sucking his thumb is supposed to be more of a metaphor, more so than what's actually happening. I'm not sure. But I'm glad that they cut this part out, because in the theatrical cut, it seems like he's just gonna beat him up. At least that's what I thought when I was a kid and I saw it. Another thing about the deleted scenes is that it was kind of, the movie is a little bit more intense in some ways. So you have like Mary's husband, who we never actually see while he's been kidnapped. We only see him with her at the end of the movie after he's been rescued. But in the deleted scenes, we see where he's being kept, and it's in a very small trunk, this one. And this trunk that they have him in is like a very small coffin. It's not even big enough for you to lay out fully extended. And there's a part where while he's in this box, he gets thrown down the stairs. Overall, it's just a nightmare, and it reminds me of that scene in Hook where he gets thrown in like the gully, or what do they call it?
The boo box.
Then they put the scorpions in there and stuff. That shit used to give me horrible nightmares. Interesting fact about that, that's actually Glenn Close. So a lot of the things that I've presented kind of make Lloyd's character seem more like a scumbag than Harry's, but don't you worry, Harry is a huge scumbag too. So towards the end of the movie, there's another scene that was cut out, and it's the part where they're all handcuffed on the bed and the guy's saying, "Who should I shoot first?" And then Harry finds out that Mary is married. It's a great sentence. Harry finds out Mary is married, and then he says this.
Mary's married, Harry. But we were a pleasant diversion.
Hey, why don't you kill her first? The bitch should have told him she was married back at the airport. That would have saved us a lot of trouble.
Yeah, that's right. He thinks because she has a husband that she should be shot because she's no longer viable, and that she somehow wasted their time. The guys who stalked her across the country, and that and him assaulting her during the snowball scene says so much about what he thinks of women. And honestly, had this been in the movie, he's an asshole that how could you possibly support either one of them? They're total scumbags. And they've made it very clear that they see Mary's character as an object, and everything in their path has been disposable. And it's crazy that with all of this content cut out, they can still be redeemable characters, or partially. Even when they're shooting champagne corks off that are killing birds, and they're stealing millions of dollars, they're drugging one another with laxative and beating up women during snowball fights. Somehow we can find a way past it, but with the content and these deleted scenes, there's no way you can look past how awful they are. Kudos to whoever saved this movie in editing. Typically when you think of deleted scenes and things getting cut out of movies, we think of studios coming in and cutting out the artistic value. But there's a lot of cases where cutting down a movie actually makes it a little more pointed, and it leaves a little bit of ambiguity so we can read into things. And sometimes these deleted scenes just save you from ruining your character. So this isn't the only movie that's been saved by editing, obviously, but I think it's a really great example of it. And that how editing is such a powerful position. I am a writer and director, and I try to do all my own editing, but I'm always involved in the process because a lot of the storytelling is done in editing. So I've seen firsthand how powerful editing is, and if you want to go get a masterclass in it, go watch the unrated, unedited version of this movie, and you will see firsthand why it is so important. Well, I hope this video was informative or helpful or something. Let me know down in the comments what you thought, if there's any other movies you want me to talk about, or really anything. I can talk about anything on this channel. Like, subscribe, there's the notification bell, hit that, do all that stuff. And I appreciate you all for watching, and I hope you have a great day.